Wisconsin is a running back factory. They've had some huge names in recent memory. They had guys such as Monty Ball, Melvin Gordon, James White, Jonathan Taylor, and now their most recent guy. As a 17-year-old freshman, the subject of today's video dominated Big Ten defenses, made freshman history, and is looked at as a Heisman contender for 2022. His ceiling is unlimited, and the craziest part is this guy was only 17 years old, and he was playing guys who were up to 5 years older than him. But this is not a surprise to the people who knew him. He's always been an athletic freak, he's always worked hard, and he's always had the talent. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to the 17-year-old Phenom who took over college football late last year and has a chance to establish himself as one of, if not the best running backs in all of college football. We're going to talk about his story, his incredible freshman season, and my thoughts on him moving forward. But before we can do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as most of you guys viewing the video are not. Leave a like if you want to support my work, and let me know what video I should cover next. Now, let's get started. So you're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than Wisconsin sophomore running back Braelon Allen. But in order to understand how Allen got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Braelon grew up pretty close to Wisconsin. In fact, he was from a town called Fond du Lac. He was always a football player from a young age, and was also a hard worker and a workout freak. So when high school football came around, he played as a true freshman and quickly took over. As a sophomore, the man-child got offers from Notre Dame, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Allen was honored by this. He said, quote, "Being recognized by schools of that caliber, especially at this age, is crazy. It's crazy because these are schools that I dreamed about going to. Like, these are the top schools. So just already having the opportunity to go there is really cool for me and my family, especially the hometown school in Wisconsin. Notre Dame has the history and the academics." After that season was over, Allen was named a second-team sophomore All-American by Max Preps, and he saw that scrolling on Twitter one day. He was also famous for his strength and weightlifting videos, as some of his clips would end up going viral. Allen started lifting his freshman year, and he credited his good genetics and nutrition for that. The dude was nicknamed the man-child, as I already said, and he was gaining national offers, but where would he go? He was a high priority for most schools, but he'd have a certain standard for the school he was going to go to. Allen said he'd only commit to a school when he had built a strong relationship with the staff and players, they needed good academics, and he wanted to study broadcast journalism, so they had to have that as well. Not only was he debating the school, but he was debating his position. He'd go back and forth between wanting to play linebacker and running back, so you'd have to factor that in as well. Unlike a lot of recruits, Braelon did not wait around, and he committed early in his career to the Wisconsin Badgers. He said, quote, "When I took my visit to Wisconsin, it felt like home. I didn't see the point in waiting around to make a decision." He ended up choosing the Badgers over the likes of Notre Dame, Michigan, Michigan State, and Iowa. This was a huge get for Wisconsin, but at the time, they were focused on their 2021 class. This was for 2022. He became the first member of their 22 class, but things would obviously change. Allen would continue to be a star on the field as he led his team to an undefeated record and won the state's Player of the Year award. He was a huge name in the state, and now he was going to go over to his home state school with a ton of support. As a junior, he ran for 1,047 yards on only 71 carries. He also scored 21 touchdowns in the process and was a star on defense. Now he had a decision. What position would he play? He said, quote, "I'm good with doing anything or everything. If they want me to play safety, I can do that. Linebacker, I can do that too. Right now, we don't really know how big I'm going to be. It's kind of a waiting guessing game right now." That was something for him to figure out, but first, he had a huge senior year ahead of him. But he would never play his senior year. He decided he was going to reclassify into 2021, with him going to social media saying, quote, "This is a business decision." This is not common in football. The only two players I can honestly remember reclassifying are JT Daniels and JTT, who is going to Ohio State. Transitioning from high school to college football is a lot different than high school to college basketball, so why did he do this? He had a pretty simple answer. He said, quote, "Honestly, I thought I was ready physically. I was willing to put in the work in the classroom to be able to have the credits to graduate this year. I just thought it was best for me and my future to get there as early as possible and hopefully make an early impact." With this came the announcement that he would also move to running back, and Allen was thrilled by this. He said his first football dream was to play running back at Wisconsin after he watched guys such as James White, Monty Ball, and Melvin Gordon. That's what he wanted to do, and now it was going to happen. People were apparently shocked by this, and 24/7 Sports did not even have him as a running back. They still listed him as a 4-star recruit, but he was ranked as the number 25 linebacker and the 219th best player in the class of 2021. Had he waited to commit and stayed in the class of 2022, scouts probably would have saw his potential and he would have been ranked a lot higher. Nevertheless though, he was now headed to Madison, and how would he do? When Braelon arrived at Wisconsin, he was the most interesting player from the 21 class. But there were 9 other running backs on the roster alongside him, and he was nowhere near the top of the depth chart. Originally, the 2 backs who were supposed to have the biggest impact for the Badgers were Jalen Berger and Ches Malusi. Malusi was a transfer from Clemson, and Berger was a big-time recruit. Eventually, Berger would go through some drama and would lead the team and is now at Michigan State, and Malusi would start the first few games. Braelon's snap count would increase a little bit throughout the first 5 games, but once Malusi got hurt, Braelon really stepped up. The offense desperately needed a spark plug, and Allen would do that, work his way up the depth chart, and all of a sudden became a star. His first real action would come in a road victory over Illinois, where he ran the ball 18 times for 131 yards and a touchdown. The following week against Army, he had 108 yards and another score, and then he would put himself on the college football map in a road victory over number 25 Purdue. In a 30-13 win, Allen would run the ball 12 times for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged nearly 12 yards per carry and had a couple of insane runs. He showed his potential, and he solidified himself as the top back on the team. He would continue strong as he go for over 100 yards in their upset victory over number 9 Iowa, had 129 yards and a touchdown on the road against Rutgers, and then he had 2 unbelievable games. In a victory over Northwestern, he ran the ball for 173 yards and 3 scores, and then against Nebraska, he ran for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns. The dude was just flat out insane, and at this point, he was starting to put up video game numbers. Keep in mind, at the time, he was 17 years old. Eventually, he did turn 18 near the end of the season. He was just a high school kid doing this. His worst game of the season would come in their loss to Minnesota, as he only ran the ball for 47 yards, but he would bounce back in a big way in their bowl game. Wisconsin ultimately lost out to Iowa to win the Big Ten West, but they still played in the Las Vegas Bowl. In a 7-point victory over Arizona State, Allen ran the ball 29 times for 159 yards, and they ended up winning. Allen had a historic freshman year, as he finished with 1,268 yards and 12 touchdowns, while averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. What's even more historic about it is the fact that 830 of his total yards came after contact. We don't see that very often. The guy was obviously a freshman All-American and an All-Big Ten selection, but he continued not to take credit. He said, quote, "All the credit goes to the offensive line and what they do. You have to get movement up front to get any yards. They did a really good job of that all season and allowed me to pick up a lot of first downs." Allen joined some pretty elite territory as he became the 4th running back in school history to reach the 1,000-yard mark as a freshman. He joined Ron Dayne, Jonathan Taylor, and James White. If his career is anything like those 3, then it means he'll be in the NFL for a long time. At this point, he still has to play 2 more years before he can even play on Sundays, but if he can keep up what he did, he could maybe be as good or even better than Jonathan Taylor. I know that's extremely unrealistic and crazy to say, but if he was putting up these kind of numbers as a 17-year-old, who knows what he can do the next 2 years? And barring some sort of injury, I think he's going to be insane. As we go into 2022, the Heisman hype for him has begun, and personally, I think he'll end up being the best running back in college football by the end of the year. What do you guys think though? If you're a Wisconsin fan, what do you think of Braelon Allen, and where does he rank amongst recent Wisconsin running backs? If you have another athletic freak or player you want me to make a video on next, be sure to let me know down below. If you want to support the channel, be sure to subscribe if you're new, hit that like button, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.